call to order the regular meeting of the Signal Mountain Town Council. It's Monday, February 10th. And Josh here, invitation. Not will stand and have the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, it is.
You have a delay on that thing?
A little delay.
So we now know it has a half a pledge delay.
Carol, will you take roll, please?
Vice Mayor Amy Speak, absent. Councilmember Sheila Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Bill West is absent. Councilmember Suzette Murdock.
Here.
Mayor Dan Lang.
Here. First thing we have is approval of minutes. And if you've had it, shall wait for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Anybody have any changes that you've seen in them? All right, with no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? 3-0. And so now it's time for a citizen's opportunity to address council. We look forward to hearing what anyone wants to present. We try to keep these to about 3 minutes. And when you come to the microphone, say your name and your address. And whoever wants to get up can get up. Oh, come on. Nobody? Okay. All right, so we'll close that portion of the meeting. I'm appreciative. I'm in the play, Harvey, and rehearsal started 3 minutes ago. I will not rush getting the King's business done tonight, but if we can be efficient, that'd be awesome. All right, first we have a resolution. This is an agreement with AD Engineering. I'll read the resolution and then let the town manager fill us in on where we are with this. This is a resolution authorizing the town manager to sign an agreement with AD Engineering in the amount of $57,000 to provide professional engineering services for the LPRF grant project at Marion and Driver Fields. This is a long time coming to finally get started. So,
It's actually, as grants go, it's moving somewhat quickly. AD did the preliminary engineering and helped pull the packet together for the grant application, so they were instrumental in getting the grant along with all those that worked on it. And this is the amount agreed to and budgeted in the grant for the actual engineering for the construction. So they're familiar with the project, helped us get it off the ground, and highly qualified, and would like to see them help us finish out the project.
have we worked with them before?
Yes.
What projects?
We've done several stormwater projects, and I can't name them off specifically, but we've done a good bit of work with them.
Any other questions about this before?
No.
Do we hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Just because it's interesting and something I've learned in the last couple of years, that any project we have, correct me if I'm wrong, over $50,000 or any purchase we make requires engineering also. Am I getting that right? I'm just trying to.
Improvements to a municipal facility, especially if it involves mechanical or electrical, then it has to be engineered. In this case, the nature of
The grant, probably.
the project, it just requires engineering for the
Right.
revitalization of that facility.
How long is that project going to take?
I don't recall what the timeline was, probably in the neighborhood of another 9 to 12 months. That's a guess, but
Is there a chance that they'll be in the middle of it this softball season?
I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, the goal will be to time it so that we, as minimally intrusive on its use as possible, but there's just too many variables right now.
All right. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'll abstain.
This was the engineering grant for Marion and Driver. The engineering grant from, or the engineering fee for Marion and Driver. All right. That's the only resolution we have tonight. So now we're going to do our second reading on the vicious dog ordinance. And it's a quick header, an ordinance amending Title 10, Chapter 2 of the Signal Mountain Code, entitled Dogs and Cats. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any
Sorry.
discussion? We've discussed this leading up to it and discussed it, quite a bit at the last meeting, so this is the
Yep.
second reading. Anybody have anything else on it? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carries 4-0. So this will be our first reading on an ordinance to rezone a portion of parcel 098JB 021 from Community Commercial District to Office District. And in real terms, this is the old Olive Bean restaurant, and the applicants are here with us tonight, and they want to put in a preschool.
Oh, wow.
And this has gone through Planning Commission and it's gone through BZA. I'll let you pick it up from there.
Pretty much sums it up. The forward portion of that parcel has been commercially zoned for a long time. It is community commercial district, which is actually a more lax commercial zone. You can do more things there, so this is actually restricting the usage more. So it's down zoning it basically to office district so that it can have a daycare and preschool there. So just the portion that is previously commercially zoned, rezoned from community commercial to office district.
Does this require a public hearing?
There will be a public hearing if it passes on first reading tonight. There will be a public hearing in advance of the second reading, both of those, the 24th.
And that public hearing would occur, at the 24th at this meeting.
Right, you'll have the public
Right.
hearing at that meeting. Subsequent to the public hearing will be the second reading.
All right.
Motion to approve? Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on it tonight? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 4-0. All right. And we have our standard budget amendments that we have to do. This is an ordinance to amend ordinance numbers 2009-13 entitled the fiscal year 2019-20 budget ordinance so as to provide for certain additional revenues and expenditures this budget year. Do you want to hit some of the high points of what the adjustments are?
Sure. In general fund, we had a vehicle scheduled for purchase last year and did not make delivery, so we're making that purchase this year. So that's a carryover. We have $33,000 that was previously approved for additional engineering for the James Boulevard project. You'll see that in there a couple of times, both for the expenditure and covering it with fund balance. Then we have the projects at MAC associated with the agreements with SMEPF for HVAC and windows, putting those in as expenditures so that the projects could move forward, and then offsetting donations for revenue.
And I think
And
we
then
could
the
discuss
only other
those
thing
more.
in this water is a backhoe. We have a dump truck budgeted, but the backhoe went completely out, so we're gonna use those funds to buy the backhoe. We are gonna budget, the 95,000 from fund balance to cover it, but we're gonna try to make it through the year without the dump truck so that it's offset, so.
Because
but-
we're so close.
Right, just in case something happens, we'll have the funds there, but we're gonna try not to use those, so that covers what's in there this time.
All right. Motion to approve?
Second.
Me.
Oh, I thought that was a question.
Susanna. Motion to approve. How's that? All right, any other discussion about it? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 4-0. Moving on to discussions now, we have one board application, and some,
Actually, I think there are a couple in there.
There's three, I think.
there are
Yeah.
three?
Three,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
We have one packet of board applications, sorry. Some guy named Dick Graham, does anybody want to speak to his character?
I don't know, it's questionable.
You're the history committee
Mhm.
liaison, can he be on the committee that you're on?
Do you want to do it? Dan?
I can't hear you.
That's good, Cheryl.
I don't, I'll defer to our attorney, but I don't know that there would be a conflict. She's not a
don't vote,
member.
no.
She's just
I'm there,
the liaison to that committee.
yeah.
I think that's right. I agree.
I'm a little worried about intimidation.
By whom?
No, never mind.
Not the answer you want?
All right, so that one's not a problem.
No.
We also have, so that's Dick Graham for the Historical Committee.
Mhm.
And for the Parks Board, David Wolf has applied.
Mhm.
And I would absolutely speak to David. He'd be great to have him
Yeah,
involved.
I think
It's a
so.
young couple that hasn't lived here. They've lived here, I guess, about 5 or 6 years now. Anybody have any other things? And so that's a name for the Parks Board. And we aren't voting tonight, right?
No, just getting council's pleasure, and if
Sure. And for the Tree Board, Jennifer
He's
Boyd.
been here 28 years, just so you know.
David's been here 28 years? Well, he moved
Yeah.
away and got married and then came back.
grew
He grew up here.
He grew
That's what
up
I'm
here.
thinking,
Yeah,
wait a minute.
okay. He moved over not
I don't
close to
know him,
us.
I just
Yeah.
read it here, so.
They're good folks. And Jennifer Boyd, I don't know.
She's great. She'll be wonderful. She's a scientist, environmental.
Excellent.
Great.
She'll be a great addition.
Excellent. All right, so can these names come up at the next board meeting for vote? We don't have a list of openings, do we? We still have openings on the Personnel Committee, I know, and we have some others as well.
we do. I have that list.
We had it last
Actually-
time.
Actually had it a meeting or two ago, and we
Yeah.
didn't touch on it, but I don't have it with me today.
Okay.
So,
We should probably look at it again next time and continue to publicize those. Stormwater Enforcement Plan. For those who don't know, Cliff Fight is here. Cliff is our stormwater guru. And Boyd, I'll let you take this one and tell us where we start and what all we have to accomplish.
Quite some time ago, we updated our stormwater ordinance and brought it in line with not only state law, but some directives and preferences from TDEC and how they'd like to see us operate. One of the things that we are allowed to do by state law, generally, municipal offenses, we're limited to a $50 fine. Specifically by state law and statute, we're given quite a bit more latitude in terms of stormwater enforcement, and have been encouraged by TDEC to formulate this plan. This came from, I believe, Cleveland. And they are, their program is at a point where they're not closely regulated by TDEC. They have everything pretty well squared away, and TDEC lets them do the thing. So they are a very good model to follow. So that's where they got this. Stormwater folks done a lot of work on it. It's been through a couple committee meetings and review by our attorney. And we feel that it is ready to adopt. And as you'll see, it has a lot of teeth. When we have the ability, whether it be builders, developers, or scenarios with illicit discharges, we're able to not only address it, but the fines the offenses rather will be considered each day as a separate offense, and increasing fines associated with the continuation of a violation. So the idea being obviously that if there's an issue, we need it addressed and addressed promptly.
Is there grace within here for difficult situations where someone's trying to fix something and working with the town and those kinds of
There
things?
is latitude in how we can address things. The idea is to be consistent and fair,
Right.
but that also means taking into consideration specific circumstances and determining how to move forward. So,
Just, again, because we're in the discussion phase and just to get some things out there, someone allows their drainage from their yard to stop up a culvert. What happens? Is that finable within this?
it could be, depending on the circumstances, and if they don't resolve it when ordered to do so. None of these are situations where you're gonna go out and hit somebody with a $500 fine when you walk on the property. It's just not designed to do that. It's a little more reasonable than that.
So the, the elephant in the room is the septic system, in this case, failed septic systems.
I don't know that that would necessarily fall directly into this. It depends on ultimately what the result of that failure was in terms of leaving the property, something like that. And please feel free to jump in anytime.
Yes, the septic systems are basically under the jurisdiction of Hamilton County's groundwater protection. Now, if someone has a leaky septic system, it is considered an illicit discharge. And there is a section in this document
Yeah,
here that
section
talks
6.
about,
Residential wastewater discharge, section 6.
Sorry, would you come to
Section 5 in the document there talks about illicit discharges. Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's actually section 6. The residential illicit discharges that are wastewater discharges, and yes, someone can get a notice of violation. They're given a certain number of days to handle that situation. That's the same procedure that Hamilton County Groundwater Protection goes through. They give 30 days also. After that 30 days, I think we've got some latitude in working with people if it takes longer to address it, longer to fix the situation. A lot of it depends on how they respond to their original notice.
Knowing that we have some problems within the town that are not fixable with
Sure.
conventional septic systems, are we gonna, I mean, we just have to recognize that's the case. We're gonna run up against some stuff that it's not possible based on the amount of land, the way some of the houses were built, and the way some of the septic systems were put in, that they can just put a new septic system in
Right.
and fix it. They require sewer, which we don't have. Any thoughts on that? On what would happen with that, Harry?
Well, they're required to provide a plan of action, corrective
Right.
action.
And that plan, a lot of times, is gonna have to do with
Pumping.
Hamilton County's groundwater protection, not necessarily us. We would like to see that plan, but if you'll notice in section 6, there's no fines, there's no anything like that. That's all handled by Hamilton County's groundwater protection.
Okay.
And, you know, a lot of that I think will have to do with, you know, if you have a parcel of property that has a field line area in the middle of it, and there's no indication that that's actually leaving the property, that's gonna be a different scenario than one that's directly adjacent to a stream.
Or
So,
another property.
you know, so there'll be some variables that'll have to be
Right.
considered.
I hope as we look at this, we rattle change up the line, because we've got to move in the direction of sewer systems. And if nothing else, I just want the public to know that the idea behind this isn't to just beat people up, but it may,
Right, that's exactly right. And if you'll look at most of these sections, you know, the first and second offense is just a notice of violation. Sometimes it's a verbal warning. You don't get into actual fines until you get down to at least second offense, sometimes third offense. So, we felt like it was pretty fair. And it just at least gives us some guidance on how to handle all these different situations.
what will the procedure be for us implementing these formally?
A resolution adopting them.
I wonder if we ought to, we need to do it, but I wonder if we ought to go slowly, and if this maybe shouldn't even, people need to show up and talk about this, because I think it's, you know what's happened. I mean, sometimes you get down to the vote, and then everyone shows up and is worried that you're doing something that's going to impact them. It'd be fantastic if we had people informed as to what this was ahead of time. You know what I'm saying?
The people that will be mostly affected by this are gonna be builders,
Or the commercial side.
developers.
Yeah.
Most of the residential stuff that's already existing is the septic tank stuff that really has no fine.
Right.
So,
But I just wonder if we, as we talk about planning, you know, mountaintop planning, we have to plan as to how,
Yeah.
we know there are a lot of septic systems put in that don't work well up here. That's why we have impacted creeks. And it's a larger plan that we need to be working on as well.
right, and this is nothing to do with that plan. This is having to do with more of what's already in place and how to address stormwater violations that happen.
Right.
I mean,
The vast majority of the stormwater focus is going to be runoff and silt and things coming off of building areas and all of that. That's really what this is focused to
Right.
address.
I get that, but it also does have the residential component to it, which is where we're likely to run into more problems and more. I think it's a tougher problem to solve. It's hard to regulate.
Long-term, absolutely. Yeah.
Long-term, it's harder, it's a bigger problem than this one, so.
and that's not what this
Yeah, it doesn't sound like
document
that's
is
what this
aimed
is.
at doing,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, it's not aimed at it, but because it mentions it,
Right.
it's going to bring it out, and it's gonna have people frightened, and that's my point. So,
So what do you want to do?
I don't know, that's what I'm saying. I'm not really sure. I want people to be aware that this is not aimed at, it is aimed at fixing the problems, but it's not aimed at forcing people to quickly do something that they're not prepared to do, and that we don't have good solutions for yet anyway. And that I think this body needs to be trying to figure out how we move forward to try to get sewers, you know, whether I'm on this council or not. I mean, it's something that I intend to live here the rest of my life, and I want my grandchildren's kids to be able to play in our creeks again, you know, and it doesn't get fixed if we just keep on kicking the can down the road. So that's all. Sorry for the soapbox, for somebody who wants to get out of here early.
No, but that really, the basic sentiment is the reason it's on here as a discussion item tonight.
Right.
So you're not seeing it the first time and being asked to vote on it.
Right.
So we have an opportunity to discuss it, explain what it is, and then I have a resolution at the next meeting, if that's okay with council. If you want to have further discussion, I'm certainly open to that direction, but again, kind of the same idea was to get some exposure ahead of it being voted on.
Sounds reasonable to me.
All right. Anything else on that? Thanks, Cliff. Zoning change, allowing banks in HCD. Why did this come up first? First question.
When we had some questions about just allowable use in the highway commercial and looked at this specifically, and as it stands now, even though there are multiple banks in highway commercial district, it only says that you can have drive-through banks and savings and loan facilities or something like that. It is allowed, banks are allowed in other zones, and the zone where we have all the banks technically doesn't allow them, so it's really just a housekeeping thing. One thing that came up after the meeting in the Planning Commission, and I did not get a chance to check with Harry today, so he's gonna be a little cold, but the wording that was already in our zoning, in the other zone, was banks, savings and loan institutions, finance companies. And the question came up about what exactly would constitute a finance company. Would that include something like a payday loan,
Right.
a pawn shop, something like that? So again, just like this last, we have this on for discussion tonight ahead of it actually coming up for action. And that was the main question that had come up, and thought we probably ought to address if we not only want to clarify that here, but in the other zone as well.
So one of the questions I have, if you had a stipulation that said, that used some sort of a governing body, like FDIC, I was joking with Boyd today, the difference between perhaps a payday loan and a pawn shop is a non-working skill saw. It's still a short-term loan, and they're non-insured loans and those kinds of things. And if you looked up pawn shops and Signal Mountain, which there are no pawn shops at Signal Mountain, you'd also get payday loans because they're sort of sort of the same thing as the short-term loan. But then I was thinking if you went with something like FDIC, you might also accidentally make it so somebody who's a financial planner can't have an office there because they're, financial counselors and involved in selling annuities and those kinds of things. So
I think the thing to do is look and see if the Tennessee statute defines finance companies. I don't have any idea.
can you check on that for us?
Sure, yeah.
I'm sure other communities have put things in place with their zoning so that, they can shield their commercial districts from, payday lending type institutions. I don't think that matches the complexion of our community at all. So I
Right.
would be in favor of having language in there that would prohibit that kind of.
I would be willing to bet that at the time this language was first penned,
Yes.
there were no such critters.
It's probably.
And nobody even thought about it.
And there were savings and loan institutions back then.
I was thinking.
Yeah, and I also want
It's
to
a
point out
Wonderful
that, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The savings and loan, when he said, it's a wonderful life,
Oh, yeah,
Made
exactly.
me think of,
The office district also allows banks, savings and loan institutions, and finance companies.
Good.
So it's affecting two.
Right.
So like where these folks are going with preschool, that, you guys going to get preschool pawn shop? You're not? All right, any other discussion on that? I think that's a good place to start, to
That's a
find
good
out if
place to
it's
start, yeah.
defined somewhere.
And we did ask Garrett about it, and if there's just clarification or strengthening of this, didn't feel it would need to go back through Planning Commission. We just want to tie that down before you guys take any action on it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So moving to, let's do tentative agenda last, because I think it sometimes helps to do that after we've had our discussion items. Is that, you guys okay with that change? On this subject of strengthening of ordinances, there's, in Eric's report for the state of the town, you had a long list of things that need to be, codes that need to be updated. it seems like we need a plan for that. For how we're gonna start to address those. Do we try to just keep one up all the time, and so council's constantly looking at it, and we're seeing what we
Well, I
need to do?
think we're pretty much ready to bring generally how it's been done in the past is to bring them together as kind of a packet.
Okay.
And update them and all, and basically just run through any, significant changes. As much as anything, it's staying within a certain number of years of the state and where they are, so, some of them may not have a lot of changes in them, we just need to update to a newer version. The significant changes that are in them, we will generally go over and fill you in on, and then adopt them all at the same time, so it's kind of compressed process instead of being drug out and things are changing all the time. We try to get everything ready, bring it up, get them changed, and then we're set for a period of time.
All right. Anything else on that topic? Update on water hire, water manager.
Soon. There's some timing delicacies,
Okay,
but in fairly short order, I'll be letting you know about that.
okay. We may not be ready, so maybe this needs to be scheduled for next time, but we ran into a significant issue with what we thought was gonna be the bid for the HVAC system at the MAC, so that's gonna,
Well, we knew it was gonna be outrageously high. The
But-
guy had already said that before he
Yeah.
even bid it.
but I think since we talked about an amount of money, I think we've gotta look at this again and say, so, what's the plan now?
Plan is to look into other options
Okay.
for not just other contractors, but other methods of heating and cooling that particular room.
Okay,
Yeah.
We actually have a meeting scheduled for Thursday of this week with a vendor with a different type of system to discuss application.
we'd have to rebid it though, right?
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
It was over $100,000 more than we expected.
Oh, wow.
yeah,
But we knew we knew to expect it to be greater, but we didn't expect that. Let me put it that way.
right.
Yeah.
But as with anything, there are methods of doing things. Some cost more, some cost
Yeah,
less.
yeah.
If you wanted, turns out we're not going to be able to have a golden tower on top of it.
We tried, but
so
no.
we have to look at a different way to do that.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just not happening in March, I guess. That's the point.
No, probably not.
All right. Budget or when's our first budget meeting? That's later this month,
February
isn't it?
25th?
Or is it in Feb?
Oh, yeah, May.
So,
It's like
That's the
February.
WRUD
I know.
joint meeting. I'm getting my meetings.
Yeah, February
did that.
25 is the WRUD meeting, which is still
we're
long.
having meetings well ahead of that, but
Okay,
you guys have some time.
right. All right, that's all that I've got. Anybody else? Tentative agenda? Any other business?
I do have something on other business before we get to that. Lieutenant from the police department came in today and asked me to specifically thank Public Works for their help when we had the unexpected snow that were not flurries. We had some major issues down below the traffic light that is handled by the state, but they were just as caught off guard as we were, and had a mess down there with vehicles and everything. So our Public Works folks went down and helped them with that and got them cleared up, and they wanted to make sure that their appreciation was expressed, because again, that's not technically our road to deal with, but it was our citizens
good.
that were in
Exactly.
harm's way and our officers that were tied up, and they came down there and helped out, and it was very much appreciated.
We specifically sent folks out to the high school to rescue
Right.
people out there to take ACT tests that were stuck, and, yeah.
It was interesting, and we get those every now and then. I mean,
Right.
it's just more than anybody anticipated. And you deal with it, and our guys were out in relatively short order. We had multiple crews out, and all in all, did an excellent job.
All right, if no one has any other business,
Do you want to touch on tentative agenda?
well, no, I mentioned that. So do we have any tentative agenda
Anything
items?
else other than what we've addressed? One thing that I did want to mention is beyond what we've already discussed, because we usually kind of recap, that's the reason I asked, but we do plan on bringing a budget amendment specifically for stormwater, for at least discussion, hopefully first reading. Last year, we finished up the year about $120,000 better than anticipated on fund balance. We have some major projects that we need to get done, so we'd like to do a budget amendment so we can get those rolling.
I'm almost sure he said something about a surplus. I must have misunderstood that.
Said we finished up the year with about 120,000 more than anticipated in fund balance.
Okay.
And we have projects we need to work on, so we would like to get those moving.
Right.
That's it. Just a heads up on that.
I'm going to hit this thing if you guys are done. We are adjourned.
Oh, happy birthday.